So what do you do when you have all these old parts lying around and nobody wants them? Well, today we're going to take you through a little journey of the art of the office PC. And what you do here is you throw together stuff that really wouldn't sell on its own, or if you couple it with a gaming graphics card, for example, no one would really want to buy it. So we've got here an old P35 motherboard, and upon pulling off the heatsink, we've got a Q6600 quad core. Now we've also got 8 GB of DDR2 memory and an old NVIDIA Quadro. So this will work as a pretty good office PC already. And another good thing is we're going to try and chuck an SSD with this and see if we can make quite a fast office PC, because even though there's a huge market for gaming PCs, there still, in my opinion, is a huge market for office PCs. That is, people who are probably console gamers or uni students, and they just want to get a computer that'll load up the internet and browse the web, watch YouTube movies, or even just do simple things like Microsoft Word. And they really don't care about paying more money for something of higher spec. And now another thing that's important with these PCs is, since we're using this low-powered graphics card and we're not overclocking anything here, it won't use up too much power. So we can put in a power supply that we otherwise wouldn't be putting in with a gaming PC, since usually on a gaming PC, your graphics card is going to use up a lot more power. And also with a gaming PC in general, people are going to be playing games for hours on end. And so you want something that's higher powered, higher rated to power that gaming PC without failing. So something like this, just being idle a lot of the time, won't need that good of a power supply. And then we've got the SSD, which is hopefully going to make this thing, even by today's standards, decent for browsing the internet. I know it's LGA 775, I know it's a Q6600, but I'm going to check out if it's a decent user experience once we put this thing together. And who knows, maybe it even might play CSGO. But until then, we can see here that we've got a lot of dirt, a lot of grime, and a lot of buildup in all these parts that I guess people just otherwise would chuck out. So this is the art of the office PC. Let's put this thing together and see how brandy new we can make it look. So now we've cleaned everything down and we're ready to start putting all the parts in this office PC. Now this is what it's all about, the art of Thai office PC. If William Shakespeare were to build an office PC, I'm pretty sure he'd be building something similar to this, or if not, this exact PC. Now, as we were talking about before with that power supply, you can see here, we've only got 18 volts on the 12 volt line, 18 amps, sorry. And that's your general indication that a power supply is pretty underpowered, especially when you look at that 5 volt rating, which this is what sort of real crappy power supplies did to up their ratings to this number here. In truth, this is really like a 200 watt power supply compared to conventional power supplies. But what we're looking at here is, another thing is, one SATA port. This is how kind of old this power supply is. It's only got one SATA port on board, but everything should be good to go. Let's piece this thing together and see what magic we can make out of all these spare, underrated parts. If you guys are like me and you just enjoy penny pinching, then hit that thumbs up button, because this is what it's all about. Having a bit of fun, but still maximizing what you can get out of the gear you have on hand. Now also, we'll quickly stop right there. What you saw basically with this SSD was that we put double-sided tape on it so we can mount it to the top of the case. Since this case doesn't, and again, it's that old, doesn't support SSD mounting. So the easiest way to get around this, even if it does support SSD mounting, double-sided tape will save you so much time when you're building, and it's not going anywhere. Like, that's moving the whole case. So Really good solution if you're into getting builds done really quickly, but if you are working with older cases too, then some double-sided tape is really going to help you out. So here's the office PC now. It's looking schmick. It is all cleaned up. Tech, yes, loving, administered. But from here in, we're going to install Windows and then check not only if this already has a Windows license activated on it, pre-activated, but also if the SSD is going to make this thing actually pretty quick for a generalized office PC. I'm pretty curious about that. And if it passes those tests, then we might even try and get CSGO installed and see if it can handle a little bit of that too. And damn, that's a lot of SATA cables we pulled out of this PC.
"2,000 years later."
So we have a bit of trouble in paradise here. So we got the PC working off VGA to DVI adapter, and I'm trying to boot this thing from USB, and the problem is it's like the Rev 1 F4 BIOS, so it's like the first ever BIOS released on this model of motherboard, and it tries to boot to USB, and then it just says invalid partition table. And I've tried to look up what the solution is. People are like, okay, you can try to boot it as a USB hard drive, which is what I usually do, but there's no option to do that. And now we're stuck at this point where I can get to trying to update the BIOS and it won't actually recognize the drive as a USB drive to update it. And then I try to save it, it'll actually save it like some weird floppy method, but then I can't even see the file on the floppy drive, like how it's done it. This is the weirdest thing I've seen. And yes, I've formatted it as a FAT32 drive. So I can't even update the BIOS. And in 2019, I just refused to get a DVD drive and then make a DVD bootable and update the BIOS that way. I mean, that's such a hassle. Why LGA 775? Why? So what we're gonna do now is, it's quicker for me, honestly, to just quickly change the motherboard. And yeah, I've got a heap of these LGA 775 boards lying around. So we're gonna change this one. We're gonna benchmark this one. I mean, put it over on the bench, leave it for now. But this is why LGA 775 can get very frustrating. I mean, everything's working except the BIOS. And that's the most important thing now, to get this thing booted, which is giving me, it's just a Pandora's box of it can't get past anything because of it being the first initial BIOS release. So we could install Windows on another SSD or on this SSD from another computer and try and boot it up that way via IDE or something, but I'm just gonna try another motherboard since, yeah, I'm pretty time strapped and I'd like to get this to work before the end of the day.
Okay, here we go. Focus. Speed. I am speed.
And now we're at conclusion time with the Office PC. We finally got it to work through that first motherboard, which had the problematic BIOS, where I think that one needed a CD-ROM or DVD drive to do anything. But then we changed it over, we updated the BIOS, the second motherboard. Once we got that BIOS update through, it did finally boot from a USB HDD. And that was painful because it actually took so long to install Windows. I was counting about an hour and a half in total from start to finish, where it should only take about 20 minutes usually. So it was just an extra lengthy process where we still had to pull up disk part while we're installing the system and clean the actual previous drive, which I bought off someone else for pretty cheap. I think it was like 18 Aussie dollars for the SSD. So we added that in there. We had that Quadro, which is just sitting around, an LGA 775 board, which I've tried selling these in the past and literally no one wants them. So we've now got a quad core, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a motherboard that no one wants, power supply that no one wants, and then a graphics card that no one wants. And we've all put it together. And here's the funny thing, the whole PC boots up in a little over 20 seconds. So it's actually quite quick. And then using Office, the Word ripoff, which is OpenWriter or something, and then the Excel ripoff, which is OpenCalc, these worked absolutely fine. They were really snappy, really fast with that SSD, and tabbing between Google Chrome and also the desktop. I was surprised. This thing is fine for an Office PC. And then I decided, okay, everything's going smooth so far, just try booting up CSGO. And to my amazement, it really played smoothly at 720p on the lowest settings for CSGO. We're getting around 80 to 100 FPS. When I benchmarked it with Fraps, the average the first time around was saying 82, then the next time around it was just a little over 100, and this was on Dust 2. But you're probably wondering, well, what's the 0.11% lows? Like, well, I'm not gonna pull out MSI Afterburner this time around because Fraps will literally only poll the FPS, so it's very lightweight in terms of a polling application. So I'm going easy on this old LGA 775. So it was pretty smooth though to play on. I was still able to get some frags, and it was a decent experience. Like, if this is all I could afford and all I wanted to play was CSGO or Minecraft, and we'll get onto Minecraft soon, then this PC will deliver. And when we booted up Minecraft, I played around with the settings and got things really smooth at 1080p native. And what we had here was like literally over 200 FPS on both the benchmarks I did. And the benchmarks were going pretty fast to the stage where it was like the FPS counter was just going out of control. So this looked really good. I mean, Minecraft's a really easy game to play. And this computer, I mean, this potato that we put together with parts that no one wants, at least where I'm living at the moment, can actually play games and do more than just Office PC stuff. So I was kind of surprised at what came out of this end result with this little banger right here, even though the build up to it was so frustrating. And so adding in an SSD to an old PC like this, if you can get it working, is going to add, I guess, a lot of value because they can still get up and go. But as we saw with that P35 motherboard, that's the problems that you have with LGA 775. They're just so frustrating sometimes, where everything will boot up, but then it won't recognize a USB stick. And then sometimes if you've got different DDR sticks of memory, things won't even boot up then. So compatibility issues were abound with those older LGA 775 boards especially. And then sometimes you can run into problems like the BIOS battery got so low on power that it shorted out the BIOS, corrupted it. The list goes on, but we did get lucky here. We did put something together that can still play games and do all that. And in terms of me selling it, I don't know how much I'm going to ask for this PC. Maybe since it can play CSGO, I can get an extra 50 Aussie dollars more than I intended. I was just going to put this up for like 100 Aussie dollars to a uni student, but now I can play CSGO and actually play some games at low settings. It might be worth 150 Aussie dollars. I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think an Office PC is worth. Have you guys put together some Office PCs with the spare parts that you have that gamers and enthusiasts generally wouldn't want, but I guess the general market doesn't mind, and because it's so cheap, they wouldn't mind buying that stuff? Let us know in the comments. Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always. And now it's time for the question of the day, which comes from Yeah What Son, and he asks, when's that area outside your repair area getting fixed? I'm guessing he's assuming my balcony, which I do live in an unfinished home still, And that's because I honestly, at the moment, I don't have time to finish or money to finish the place, but I've got the studio finished. This is where I work and generally sleep and do all that stuff. And this is fine for me at the moment. It beats paying rent, that's for sure. And I'm happy with what I got here, so I'm just chugging along, doing my thing. And in due time, it'll all get finished. I'm just one of those guys who's got the patience and enjoys kind of, I don't know, maybe there's another reason I don't want to finish it off, and that's because I do like spray all the brake cleaner and WD-40 and all that stuff out there. And if I did finish it, it would probably only get ruined. So there's part of me that doesn't want to finish it, and there's part of me that just simply doesn't have the time or the money. And hopefully that answers Yeah Watson's question. And if you're enjoying the content enough, make sure to hit that sub button, ring the bell, and hit that like button for us. And I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.